change the shape of a curve, we'll need to convert it to an editable spline. We can start from a primitive such as a circle and then convert it to editable and customize its shape. Let's do that in the front viewport. I'll click in that view and maximize it with Alt-W. Over in the Create panel, choose the Shapes category and click on the Circle button. Drag out in the viewport to create that circle and right-click to exit the tool. With that circle primitive still selected, we can go to the Modify panel. And because it's a parametric primitive, it's got a radius parameter and we can adjust that. To edit the shape of this curve, we'll need to convert it. And the way to do that is from the right-click context menu called the Quad menu. So with that object selected, go over to the viewport and right-click anywhere. From the bottom of the Quad menu, choose Convert to Editable Spline. As soon as you do that, the object type is converted from a circle primitive into an editable spline. And if we scroll down here in the Modify panel, we'll see that we have many tools at our disposal. To edit the shape, we can go into a Subobject mode, sometimes known as a component mode in other programs. And that simply means to select and manipulate some part of an object rather than the object in its entirety. We can go into Subobject mode either by opening up the object type here in this area known as the modifier stack, or by clicking on the Subobject mode icon here in the selection rollout. The three types of subobjects for a spline curve are vertex, segment, and spline. Or we can go up here and open this up, and we have those same things listed here. So we can choose vertex, and vertex is just a fancy word for point. When we go into vertex component or subobject mode, we can select an individual point and grab the move tool and position that anywhere to change the shape. Additionally, for a Bezier curve point, we have these tangent handles that we can also manipulate to change the shape. Or we can go into segment subobject mode and select a segment between 2 points and manipulate that as well. I'll go back to vertex component mode or subobject mode. These are all Bezier points currently, but we can convert those to different vertex types. So for example, I can draw a selection rectangle around all of those, and once again access the Quad menu. Right-click in the viewport, and in the upper left quadrant, in the Tools 1 quadrant, we have the vertex types. And we've got a checkbox next to Bezier currently. If I choose corner, then we'll get hard corners on each one of those vertices and straight lines for each one of the segments. Or I can select a point, go back into the Quad menu and convert to another vertex type such as smooth, which will give us a curved line with no tangent handles to adjust. So if we convert these all to smooth, then we have limited control over the shape. And we can see that as we move one point around, it's actually having an effect way out over here. So I don't tend to use smooth vertices very often. The other type that we haven't seen is Bezier Corner. We can select a point and right-click and go to Bezier Corner. And a Bezier Corner point has tangent handles, but those tangent handles are broken and we can adjust them independently. Also notice that the state of the transform gizmo affects our axis constraints. And unfortunately, the transform gizmo or move gizmo does not appear on the tangent handle itself. So if we want to move in X and Y, we'll need to click on the bracket here, and then we can move that tangent handle in X and Y. And you can get into trouble sometimes if that tangent handle is directly superimposed over one of the transform gizmo axis constraints. So in this state right now, if I try to click on this point, I won't be able to move it in X. I can move it in Y because just clicking on that is going to activate the Y-axis of the transform gizmo. If you get into this situation, then my recommendation is you can choose the X and Y axes and then just temporarily hide the transform gizmo. That's done from the Views menu. you can go down here and hide the transform gizmo. Just turn Show Transform Gizmo off, and then you can move that vertex or any vertices in the X and Y axes of the current viewport. All right, I'll turn that back on again. Show Transform Gizmo. Okay, that's the basics of manipulating Bezier curves.